अग्नि बन जाए ज्वाला, करे कोप चाहे धरती अंबर, करेंगे जन जन की रक्षा हम, चाहे चलना हो अंगारों पर। हम रक्षक हैं जीवन के, सेवा है धर्म हमारा, अग्निशमन कर्तव्य हमें है प्राणों से प्यारा। चाहे अग्नि बन जाए ज्वाला, करे कोप चाहे धरती अंबर, करेंगे जन जन की रक्षा हम, चाहे चलना हो अंगारों पर। जाति धर्म के भेदभाव हमें अलग नहीं कर पाते, हम चुस्ती फुर्ती तत्परता के पंख लगा उड़ जाते।
जाति धर्म के भेदभाव हमें अलग नहीं कर पाते,
ऊंची ऊंची मीनारों पर साहस से आग बुझाते, तन मन धन के साथ साथ जन जन की जान बचाते। चाहे अग्नि बन जाए ज्वाला, करे कोप चाहे धरती अंबर, करेंगे जन जन की रक्षा हम, चाहे चलना हो अंगारों पर।
हम रक्षक हैं जीवन के, सेवा है धर्म हमारा, अग्निशमन कर्तव्य हमें है प्राणों से प्यारा।
के सेवक हैं, खड़े हैं सीना तान, जाए कहीं भी चाहे हम, पहले तो है इंसान।
हम मानवता के सेवक हैं, खड़े हैं सीना तान,
अनुशासन से भरे हुए संगठन पे है अभिमान, फर्ज की पुकार पर करते प्राणों का दान। चाहे अग्नि बन जाए ज्वाला, करे कोप चाहे धरती अंबर, करेंगे जन जन की रक्षा हम, चाहे चलना हो अंगारों पर। हम रक्षक हैं जीवन के, सेवा है धर्म हमारा, अग्निशमन कर्तव्य हमें है प्राणों से प्यारा।
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly 4 o'clock. We are starting the program on dot. I'm proud to say FireSafe India Foundation, a movement to educate and create awareness among public. This is our 11th webinar that we have been doing on various subjects. The last program is very specific to school and colleges. It was a wonderful, well-received webinar. The speaker was Kiran Atyal, the Deputy Director of the Maharashtra Fire. It was wonderfully. And those who have missed it, or if you want to see the video webinar recording, it's available with us. You can send us an email. We can get back to you. And today, FireSafe India Foundation presents Understanding of Passive Fire Product Testing and Certification, a very important subject. Everybody knows about passive fire. But how do you ensure that the product that is supplied meets the required time and the process of testing is, and how do you go check? Where do you go check? How do you ensure that the product has the stamping? This is something that we thought we will touch upon this. And I want to thank our chairman, Mr. Deshmukh, the Fire Safe India Foundation, and subject expert, the well-known face in India, Abhishek, and Anuradha, CEO of FSIF, to join us today. With me, I have our Deshmukh sir, again, one of the highly respected gentlemen in the fire fraternity. He was the former director of Maharashtra Fire Services and advisor to Government of Maharashtra. Member of BAS and the NBC committee. Is the president of National Association of Fire Officer. So NAFO has been in the actively, once again, taking the interest of all the fire officers, educating and knowledge sharing with officers, the retired officers and currently serving officers, quite active in it. And he's also the chairman of the Fire Safe India Foundation. He was responsible to bring the Maharashtra Fire Act during his tenure as the fire chief of Maharashtra and MIDC. That's the only state in the initial stage to introduce the Fire Act, and followed by the many states implemented similar to it. He is the fire professional since 38 years and was in active firefighting operation for 20 years in the industrial belt. His passion is very simple. Mission Fire Safe India, make India a fire safe country. Wonderful statement by Mr. Deshmukh. We have a subject expert and well-known face on the passive fire industry. Abhishek has been advocating the use of passive fire. Everybody is aware that active fire is everybody knows, but equally important is passive fire. He frequently writes articles in magazines and publication, and his note on, does the large-scale fire propagation test ensure fire safe cladding? And he has published an article in Council of Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, City BUH, headquartered in Chicago. His valuable experience from other larger testing inspection certification company has helped customers and construction industry stakeholders over the year. He also owns and drives a blog in LinkedIn group called Guru of Testing, Inspection and Certification, www.tic.guru, which is now it has many followers and is frequently writes article in it. It aims to expand the understanding of conformity across the world. I welcome Abhishek Chabra, the Marketing Development Manager of Thomas Wright International Consultant. With me, I have my colleague, Anura Deshmukh, the CEO of Fire Safe India Foundation, handle various businesses, including insurance and banking, retail NRI. Currently an entrepreneur and active professional in fire services. Myself, Dominic, been in the industry almost 35 years. Again, continue to advocate the use of fire safety product, currently actively involved in fire drill, mock drill, etc. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to play an anthem, very well created, scripted for Fire Safe India Foundation. Lakshmi, my colleague who's at the background, please play the anthem of FSI.
Time is ticking. Have you ever thought how safe your home or building is? Have you seen a fire extinguisher being used? Have you ever attended a fire drill? Do you even know if your building has a valid no objection certificate? Are you aware of the local fire laws? And did you know that every year around 25,000 people die in India due to fire incidents. It means that on an average around 60 people die every day in fire accidents. Did you know that every fifth fire death in the world occurs in India? Do you know that in India there are around 680 fire emergency calls every day? Do you know that most of the fire accidents are caused due to ignorance? It is not surprising you didn't, because we tend to think that fire incidents take place far from where we are till one day, without any warning, we just could be in the midst of grave danger. It is for this reason that we need to sensitize and create awareness, which can be achieved only through education and social activism. And the time for that is now. Need we say that your participation is of paramount importance? Well, we guess not. So what can we do to make ourselves and our country safe? Welcome to the Fire Safe India Foundation, an organization that has been founded and is being nurtured by some of the best minds from the fire industry. These brilliant visionaries have taken up the Herculean task of making not just you and your family safe, but in the process transform our country to be a fire-safe nation. The Fire Safe India Foundation is a not-for-profit body built on the pillars of wisdom, compassion and empathy, driven by passion for creating a safe nation that we all so lovingly call Bharat. Our vision is to draw strength from our learnings, develop programs to cater to the masses, imbibe in them a sense of awareness, commit them to learn, share and care for their fellow citizens through the channels of brotherhood that we create to transform our country into a fire-safe nation. And our mission, ladies and gentlemen, is to safeguard and improve the quality of life of our citizens through fire prevention and protection. Sensitize authorities and our fellow citizens about the risks of fire by adopting various channels of communication and social media. Advocate compliance of fire safety and strictly adopt building codes for fire-safe occupancy of public and private premises through social activism. Create mass awareness through education. Award and reward acts of courage and rescue by firefighters and general public during fire incidents. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Fire Safe India Foundation, a first-of-its-kind organization created for the citizens to empower all to be fire safe. A better future can be created if all of us join together to make a change. Inviting you to become a member and be a part of this organization. It is our pleasure to introduce to you our chairman and the advisory board of some of the best names in the country. These names in themselves are a stamp of recognition and prelude to the success the Fire Safe India Foundation will receive. Our chairman is Mr. M.V. Deshmukh, former fire advisor and director of Maharashtra Fire Services and President, National Association of Fire Officers. And this, ladies and gentlemen, comprises of the advisory board of the Fire Safe India Foundation. For more information and also to sign up for a Fire Safe Bharat, do log on to www.firesafeindia.org. Change begins with you. Change begins with us. In the words of the father of the nation, let's be the change we want to see.
Thank you, Lakshmi, for playing that video, wonderful video. And FSIF, if you go to visit the website, and there is a huge knowledge bank. You can think about anything, how do's and don'ts, and the articles and some of the fire acts, everything you find in the website. Membership is hardly anything, 760 rupees a year. So I would urge all the participants who are here. My colleague Lakshmi will be giving the link in the chat box. Please use that and become a member. The more the member come, the more the knowledge that you spread. Now I welcome the chairman of Fire Safe India Foundation, Mr. Deshmukh. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dominic, for making an excellent beginning of the program and also making an appeal to the people to join the Fire Safe India. It is joining Fire Safe India Foundation is not the joining foundation, but it is joining the bandwagon of the experts and the society members to lead the mission Fire Safe India. So I welcome all of you. At the outset, my responsibility today given to me is the introduction of the topic or set the path for the today's discussion. In India, many things we have done and many things are to be done as far as the domain of fire and life safety is concerned. So we started as a amateur firefighters. We started initially being a developing nation from the basic fire trucks to the fire hydrants and the things like that. And now we are maturing and our urbanization, civilization or the industrialization is driving us to make us more competent, more capable to build our capacities and see that we make our life fire safe. We improve upon the salvage value of the property that we lose every year. So in this context, there are certain verticals where the growth is good or reasonably good, and some areas we are still lacking, such as the fire forensic, fire professional education and the upliftment in that vertical of the education. And another important issue that today we are bringing before the audience, and I know most of the audience are also equally good experts, and this sharing and learning kind of a concept. And that is the topic that is the passive fire protection. When we debate, we discuss, many times people ask, you are forcing us to make this all detection systems, sprinkler systems, weight risers, downcomers and things like that. Why you want this passive fire protection? Our buildings are very robust, well constructed, well made. So very difficult to answer, but the practical difficulty is that this is all will come in operation once the fire occurs. One thing which sustains forever is the construction of the building, and after the periodical long-term capital maintenance of the building, that is the passive fire protection. So just to break the ice, I would say that the passive fire protection means what? That is the question many times people ask me. The word passive sometimes undervalue in their mind that it must be something passive and not active. But here, the passive has a more predominant role and the predominant part of our structure that we can make our lives more safe. See the compartment, it could be your office, it could be the cabin in which I am sitting now here or the conference rooms. When you sit in that, you think that in the night in a hotel room you're sleeping, if there is a fire in that hotel in some other corner, the fire or the smoke should not penetrate through your room or vice versa. Idea is good. So your room can be made absolutely ivory curtain or the ivory wall. But then you require so many other things. You require comfort by having your nice air conditioning, ventilation, HVAC, what we call as, we need good water. You require the cold water, you require the warm water, you require your sanitary services and whatnot, all what we call as the services that mechanical, electrical and ventilation, plumbing. So all then the fire services as well as the sprinkler lines, our detection lines, the wire cabling going through the room, all that we need. Then I said, yeah, I need everything. Then I want the services to come in. Then I want people to come and serve me, and then they want the door to go out and go in. Sometimes I want a fresh breeze or the good view. Sometimes I get a temptation to open my window or the screen. Then I can't remain in the ivory wall kind of a curtain where even the insect cannot enter in. So that's not practically possible. Then the question is, okay, one time that the walls which I construct, the doors I provide, every code, it could be IBC, it could be NFPA, it could be Middle East countries have made nice codes. And India also is not far behind, but our national building code has also created its footprint, and it is also maturing year by year. And now again, it is going under the revision. So, and there are certain, the standards, like, for example, for fire door, India has, I think, 3614. And like that, we have many standards. Challenge comes before me, which I very honestly confessed before the audience last time also, that when I go as a fire chief, maybe as a prescription, I'll write in my prescription that this is the passive fire protection as per so and so code I need. I want your wall resistance of 2 hours, 1 hour. This hours what I'm talking, or the minutes what I'm talking, it is, in line with the type of occupancy that we choose. It could be the rooming occupancy, it could be industrial occupancy, it could be the hotel, commercial buildings and whatnot. So according to the hospitals, especially nowadays being discussed. So depending on the occupancy, you have to create the compartmentalization, isolation. How do you create it? And once you create it, and when you want all the services to come in and go out, you require different products. The products called as intumescents, fire stops, smoke stops. Smoke stop versus, I was talking more Abhishek on 15 days, 20 days before about a smoke seal versus a fire seal. How to deal with, how to do retrofitting with the old building with a glass facade. The Bombay High Court wanted one opinion recently, I have given them. So these are the things that keep on happening. So how do we, and when I buy, say, the products for the passive fire protection, and I prescribe everything, and the developer, occupier, the party who have constructed the building, they invite our fire regulators, the fire chiefs, that, okay, inspect the building and give us the permission now, the final approval. If we go there, it is very difficult to penetrate through the ducts provided for the, the driving the utility services inside, or the fire door. I cannot just knock the door and see, yeah, it will survive for 30 minutes or 60 minutes. How do I rely upon? The services which are passing through there, I provide the intumescents. They say, yes, we have provided. Now again, to drill down that and see what is provided, what quality it is provided, it's very difficult. So, and sometimes the shell buildings are constructed, and the building are configured according to their client's requirements or as per the choice. So there also it is very difficult to ensure that the final fire approval is given after the entire configuration is in place. So whatever the Indian laws are there, we have to give the permission once the building shell even is ready. It's just an occupiable building, but the interior is yet to be done. And there I do not know what tapestry is going to be used, what upholstery is going to be used. Under the circumstances, we work. And this is one vertical which now demands, is heavily demanding to save the life of the people. And to test these products, there's a challenge before us. We have IS standards, we have codes, and many other products for which we will be evolving standards. But then how to test those? Do we have the adequate number of test labs in India? And there's the area from where the subject matter expert of the day he comes from. And he has a very sound knowledge of the subject. Sometimes even I discuss with him and I just either reform with what is in my mind, ratify, or sometimes I solicit his advice as well. So such a good expert today we have.
Thank you.
How to achieve this and how to test these products and how to depend on the test certification than any visual or some physical intervention to see that the products are meeting to the desired rating. So with that, I think I take a pause here, and I will request Mr. Abhishek to please take over and educate the audience on your testing and the overall passive fire protection, the area where you are neck deep into. And I appreciate your one comment that you said that in India, we are very fast learners, but very poor implementers. That is what probably you were trying to say, but you were very modest, very soft spoken. So you could not be that. That job I'm here, you don't worry. I'm known for that. So Dominic said that is straight from the belly. So I am saying that we are bad in implementation. We understand the need, we understand the concept, we can read, we gain the knowledge. But when it time comes for implementation, me as either occupier, owner of the property, I have certain constraints. I don't know where to spend my money for my life or for my aesthetics. Me as a regulator, sometimes I have limitations. I do not have adequate number of qualified people with me, or I lack education, and the regulator is weak in India, which I always reiterate for. Some people must be feeling offended. And then the market, those people are selling their products. They also want to make a fast buck, and they also sell what is cheaper than rather what is useful or fruitful. So you can comprehend that better, Mr. Abhishek, and I request you to please take over. Thank you so much, Dominic, for giving an opportunity, and we will learn a lot out of it, and we'll continue this mission for longer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Over to Abhishek.
Thank you very, very much for setting the stage. And Deshmukh Saab, as always, it's fantastic to have you, as you said, right from the belly, direct. Whatever has to be conveyed is conveyed. And that is really, really good. And I'm lucky to be kind of hosted or at a platform which is the Fire Safe Foundation, such a selfless body working to educate the whole country, which is quite a mammoth task. I would cut to the chase and I would jump straight to today's topic, because I want to address lots of things. There are so many matters that I would like to talk about, but there is always limitation of time. And I want to start with the journey so far, which Dominic also explained, and all the users, listeners who are here are welcome to revisit the journey that we started 2 years ago, where we have started with started as well as conducted several series which aim at education, starting at the peak of the pandemic, where we initiated with the Passive Fire Protection Awareness Series 1, which looked at an overview of what passive fire is, what are passive fire essentials, and about 8 webinars, which covered several aspects from a distance. And then we covered a deep dive awareness series 2, which talked about specific test methods, how they function, how compliances function. So as an audience, if anybody is still interested to go and listen to these, feel free to scan the QR codes, and you can head straight to saving these playlists for listening to when you have some more time. Dominic's team, helped us roll out some India-specific programs, education specific to Indian standards, and that is when we completed the task that we had taken on to initiate as well as offer certification and listing to Indian standards, because we realized that Atmanirbhar Bharat is a massive movement, and we must support this movement because so much effort has gone in localizing Indian standards. And once we did so, we undertook a large activity which was called Fire Safety Pe Charcha, where through cities of Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, Chennai, Delhi, Cochin, we interacted with several stakeholders simultaneously. We spoke with regulators, civil defense, fire department, architects, and we discussed at length what are the practical challenges which lead to gap in implementation of passive fire protection. And I have a wonderful list of action items with me, which I'm going to initiate, looping in a lot of people who are probably even in the call today, either retired or are still in action, whose heart calls for driving a fire-safe India. So we have a good line of activity lined up. We have good preparation. Anybody who is not fully aware about passive fire protection can look through these older sessions to retool ourselves. So with this kind of a background about passive fire protection, what is this all about? And I'm going to give a review about it in the slides to come. I want to ask a question saying, all of this knowledge exists. We know all of this. So where do we go from here now? We have access to so many tools, so much education. In fact, if anybody is familiar with the latest artificial intelligence as augmented intelligence tool, you ask, and the Chat GPT or OpenAI as a public tool, if anyone has used, it's fantastic. You ask them, what should we do? And they tell you. So we are tooled up. We have every knowledge that we need to have. But point is, where do we go from there? We have all the knowledge. How do we translate, like Deshmukh Saab was saying, knowledge to action? And I must say that actions come from decisions that we take. All the glorious conversations that have been exciting the construction industry with the country's leadership taking decisions that we will become a developed country by 2050. We will be there. There is such a massive amount of construction that is happening and will happen in our country. So how do we make sure we don't do the mistakes that other countries may have done in the past? How do we make sure these mistakes are not done? So before I begin, I would urge everybody to quickly answer some questions. I have opened a poll right. This poll, and I would love to get the answers. So I'll give it a minute for the audience to answer the poll questions so that we, at the end of this poll journey, we are able to go ahead on today's slides when I'm going to share what is the magic solution. How is it that after knowing all that we know, just a few quick decisions in 2023, decisions that each one of you will be taking in the days, weeks, months that will come by, which will be your decisions, which will make sure that one accident is saved. One big fire does not happen just because each one of you decided to take a better decision, a more informed decision. So I'll give you a few seconds to complete the poll before I move forward. I can see a good percentage people who are answering the poll. And I see Shailesh Rawal replying probably to the poll on chat, which is very interesting. I'm seeing this for the first time. So I'll give you 10 more seconds. I have great replies, and I'm getting a very good direction that I should touch a little more about what passive fire protection is today, looking at the answers in the poll question about how people comprehend passive fire protection or not. Fantastic. So let me close this poll now and give a very, very quick overview. I will not spend a lot of time on this about what really is passive fire protection. We are looking at compartmentation. We are making sure that instead of the active fire, Deshmukh sir was trying to give a very nice example at the beginning that what is really passive and how does this passive fire protection actually protects. And today we are just going to focus on what we call containment and structural strength. So whenever we see or imagine or read about a fire incident that has happened, a fire incident, a small fire incident that has become a massive fire accident, I want each one of you to imagine and understand that how compartmentation works. If you see the small tiny video running at the center of the screens that you are watching, you will notice that there are several components ranging from doors, glass walls, vertical elements like load-bearing walls or non-load-bearing walls, horizontal elements, ceilings. All of these elements are involved in containment of fire. So you can all imagine that there was a small fire that happened in the kitchen, in the pantry, in the electrical room, in the AHU room, wherever. But because there was containment of fire which was available, we were able to suffocate the fire within, and there was no big accident that happened. This is the basic of passive fire protection. With the elements that you can see on your screen, these are the elements that create containment. So today's session is about how do we make sure that these elements really do the job. And as we are in India, and as Atmanirbhar Bharat continues to grow as a movement, why should we rely on standards that have been published in other parts of the world, whether they are British standards, European standards, American standards, Chinese standards, Japanese standards? How can we rely with a high degree of assurance on Indian standards that will give us the confidence that the fire doors, partitions, glazing, ceilings, through penetration fire stops, structural fire protection is functioning and is valid? So many of you may be familiar with these Indian standards, which are part of the National Building Code of India. Some are getting added to the National Building Code of India. And I know people who are in the audience who have been working very, very hard to make sure that the newer test methods like the 16945, 947, the 2021 version of 3614 are all adopted and correctly implemented and used. So while I let you absorb and read that which these standards are, because many of you are probably more familiar with 3614 because it is most talked about, we also have the 834 series of standards, part 4, 5, 8, 9, even 6, 7, which help check and assure that the walls, roof, ceiling, load bearing, non-load bearing, are complying to what has been promised. So how do we really check this? There is a lot of discussion that we have had in the past. There is a discussion that was happening earlier that let's do a test. And lots of fire testing laboratories have been around. We have been around. New laboratories are opening in India and new laboratories are opening in the world. But like Deshmukh Saab said just a while ago, that we are probably not very thorough in our implementation sometimes. And this is where I want to bring out this key piece of learning for all of you. Testing, of course, is an extremely, extremely critical part. People need to understand. I don't know how many people in the audience have seen a fire test. I'm very lucky that I'm sitting next to 4 fire resistance furnaces that we have right here where I'm sitting. And we do anywhere from 50 to 60 fire resistance tests alone every month and have more than a decade and a half worth of experience in doing this across products. And I can share with you some of the very critical learning as an Indian and as someone who really feels for the need of upliftment of the quality. That how a test report should be relied on and how much will you rely on a test report? Do you ever ask when you see a test report that when was this test done? And how is a test report linking with what will come to you when you place an order? There is no way to figure out how many products failed or how many times the test may have failed, the product may have failed. So the question I ask to all of you is that whenever you see a test report of any laboratory, just by reading through the test report and going through the pages, will you trust the life of your family members? Will you trust the life of your family members on something which claims to rely based on a test report that you have seen? And if you get a good answer, please go ahead and take that decision. Because when we are talking about a test report, which is probably demonstrating capability of whether a product can be put together and installed inside a laboratory to comply to a fire resistance test, a laboratory that must be able to demonstrate repeatability of its conditions in the first place. How does that test report give you the confidence that each time the product, whether it is a fire door, a glazing partition, a ceiling system, a wall system, for those hundreds of doors, those thousands of square meters worth compartmentation that needs to be built in your building, will it be the same or not? And I want each one of you to look at the construction sites all around us in India and ask this question whenever we procure or sell any building material which claims to provide fire safety. Are we looking away? Are we paying for fire safety? And I really mean that we need to answer these questions. So I'm going to ask all of you a quick question again before we jump into understanding the assurance mechanisms. What is it that all of us can do? And while I'm opening this poll question and waiting for answers from all of you, I am also opening the page. please go ahead and use the question and answer button. Write in some questions for me. Write in some questions for Mr. Deshmukh and Anura, who is here as Fire Safe Foundation. Let us have a discussion on how we can take the right decisions to make sure we build a fire-safe country. We are expected to complete 70 more airports in our country in the coming decade, 70, just the airports. How many hospitals, commercial complexes, bus stations, metro stations are expected is countless. And each decision that you take today, as someone who signed up and is investing their time today in attending to this session, every decision that you would take counts. So I urge all of you to go ahead and poll us as well. I see a lot of people in the poll who are giving answers that they are aware of what a fire and life safety plan is. They know what a certification is. But when it comes to answering how many people have actually gone on the website of a certification body to actually check, where is this product coming from? Where is this product manufactured? How do we make sure that we are taking the correct technical decisions that will make sure our country will be fire safe? So I'm going to end this poll in a few more seconds, 30 seconds more. But please go ahead, poll us, write some questions, give us some difficult questions in the question and answer screen. Click on the question and answer screen and right away, give us some difficult questions that we will try to answer to help you take the decisions that we need to take in this year of 2023. So what can we do? Let me answer that. All of you in the audience have some or the other function as a stakeholder. But you have two things in your hand, in your control. Implementation of either the National Building Code or the technical specifications in a project. You can either create products, sell products, or buy products that need to comply. And we need to understand compliance. Because if we have a test report, well, what good is a test report if we don't know what is getting manufactured in the factory and what is coming to the construction site if we have no way to check it? Deshmukh Saab asked these questions that when we go to the site, what can we see? And the answers are right here in this workshop, in the slides to come. The answers are right here. And I'll take a quick example of a fire door because the 3614 or fire door is something that gets discussed a lot. Whenever someone wants to talk about passive fire protection, we all talk about fire doors. Unfortunately, we don't necessarily also talk about fire walls, glazing partitions, roof systems, floor-to-wall joints, through penetration fire stops. If one thing is complete and the others are not, there is no point of doing all of this. A lot of people in the audience said that they understand what a fire and life safety plan is. How much compartmentation is needed for what building type. And this is where the whole plan begins. And what comes out of the fire and life safety plan is a door schedule. You have a big Excel file, people need to cost it. People code to it. And it is extremely important and critical to notice that this is the exact point where all the ghafla begins. Because this is the buying point. this is the point where the actual buy decision is happening. It is equal to all of us walking into e-city or a store to buy a mobile phone and saying, what does this mobile phone do? What are the features before I pay? So the door schedule has the fire resistance rating mentioned, but how do you as a buyer get the assurance? The assurance is in the form of a piece of paper, usually, unfortunately, which is a test report. And if you don't know where that test report has come from, how that sample was tested, then you don't have the right tools to take that decision. Internationally, as well as in India, for many, many projects, people ask for certification. Some people ask for fire door labels. But how do we really use these fire door labels? How do we use this certification? How do we use and understand if someone gives you an engineering judgment? Is what is important. So I'm going to take an example of a fire door which is procured probably for a hotel or a hospital or a mall or an airport, and explain to you two routes of assurance. There is a route which is a supplier approach route, where the manufacturer, and I see many of them here, that these will submit to you a document saying my product is fire rated. And this is the exact space where you need to ask for a certificate number. A certificate number that can be checked online. And when you check this certificate online and only check and rely on this online listing, is how you can compare what is being manufactured and supplied. What is the kind of fire door which is being audited and assured for by the third-party certification body, where lakhs of rupees has been spent. So have your sellers spent lakhs of rupees just to create a paper that looks very good? Or is it actually assurance that you can verify online on the internet by putting in the certificate number and seeing where is that product getting manufactured and how is it establishing the traceability? Does it have a fire door label which has all the dimensions that can be compared and looked up and inspected on the construction site? Does the label give you that assurance? This is the best and actually the most cost-effective approach, but it requires intelligence. It requires us to verify, to ask the right questions, and to do the hard work of going to the construction site by ourselves with an inchy tape and measuring the gaps and checking each and every element. Is the hardware listed on the certification directory same as what is coming on site? Who is installing the door? Are they capable of installing the doors? The second approach, which is actually a more expensive approach, is the 2% approach. The buyer goes to the site and says, test these 3 doors and I will sign the sample. But make sure you send it to a lab you trust. You send it to a lab where you are sure money will not change hands and you will not get another piece of paper, because it is the hard reality of the construction industry. If you want your family to be sitting in that room and hoping that it will have fire protection, make sure you take the right decisions. And as a manufacturer or as a buyer, this is the certification process. It starts with the third party going to the manufacturer's premises and sampling all the products which will be tested. They will witness how the manufacturing is done. And then the witnessed product is tested. And there is a regular review at the factory. Every year, 2 to 3 times, someone will visit and check the log of how many doors were sold for which all products. And that certificate number, which is on the label, mind you, is what you can look up on the certification directory, which will list the gaps, which will list the hardware, which will list where the product is being manufactured, each and everything. So like Namita asked this question, that many a times you get 1-page fire door test report. I am sorry to say that there is no means that you would have to verify, first of all, whether that 1-page report is actually what has been issued by the laboratory or not. Sorry to say, it could be a forged piece of paper. You need to rely on something which is online. We are in an age of verification and digitization. If any of you are interested, please go ahead, look up tbwcert.com. I have Vinayak, who is also chatting away with everybody. Look up and see how certificates are listed with the aim to make sure that you can inspect that door when you want to. You have all the data and the information that will make sure that assurance can come in place. You have those tools of assurance. And mind you, we have a lot of things in our control. Whether you're buying or selling or assuring or making a regulation, what is it that is written in the technical specifications? Do we really read and comply to them? Because it is the technical specifications which should and would have a commercial impact. But if we are looking away and saying these technical specifications are too difficult to deal with or are too complicated, or better, they are written so poorly that they cannot be met with, then we are heading for trouble. We are taking a decision where we are letting our near and dear ones into a dangerous building where anything could happen. That is all that we really, really need to be wary of. So whatever decisions you are going to take in this year of 2023, make sure you take the right decisions. You ask clearly, or you tell clearly that your product has sat through audits, is certified and listed, not by any laboratory, but by a laboratory where you will trust the test report, by a third-party certification body where you can verify the results on the certification directory. Just punch in the certificate number and see, is it a certificate that lapsed 3 years ago? And the manufacturer is still milking the investment of paying a few lakh rupees for getting a certificate. Does it match up with what you have called for? Are you capable? Are you asking capable inspectors to check who is installing the doors? Because if you have paid 2 to 5 times the money for a fire-rated door and you're saving a few lakh rupees by asking anyone to install that door, then it is equal to buying a very, very expensive 70-inch television and asking your plumber to fit it for you. What is the point? So if we want to do such decisions, if we are paying the money to get fire safety, then we must make sure that we actually get the fire safety that we are paying for, because we are paying for it in some or the other way. And unfortunately, if we don't pay for it at the right stage, it's very sad, but somebody's life will pay for it. So I think as I come to close of this session, please make sure that are you getting fire safety? Or are you getting cheated just because you don't know where to look and what questions to ask? So this screen is a quick cheat code of the questions that you should ask. I end this session today. And for anybody who does not know about us, we are a 27, 28-year-old company in Dubai, supporting the facade, curtain wall industry, as well as the whole of construction industry, with an extremely large set of capability and capacity testing for resistance to fire, reaction to fire, fire propagation of cladding over the last nearly 3 decades, supporting not only Gulf countries and Asian countries, but also now with an office in the United Kingdom, supporting product manufacturers from the UK, who, by the way, cannot find sometimes a quick enough test date in UK to test their products. So with that, I come to an end to today's session from my side. But anybody who is interested to know more about our offering, about the certification, the tests that we are offering to India, I have just shared a document as well, which you can see on your screen. This lists all the offerings, including the Indian test methods that we can offer our testing and certification to. Thank you very much for patiently listening. Over to you, sir. Before I take some questions.
Thank you, Abhishek. We will now request all our participants to post the question only in Q&A, not on the chat box. And the Q&A session will be handled by Mr. Deshmukh and Mr. Abhishek Chabra. So I would appeal once again to all the participants to put a question, relevant question to the subject in the Q&A box. Over to Deshmukh sir and Abhishek.
So maybe I can, I can read some of the questions.
Yeah.
If that's okay, Deshmukh Saab, maybe I can attack some of the questions first.
Sir, you're on mute, sir.
No, I said, Abhishek, you please go ahead. If need be, I will pitch in.
Perfect. So while
One minute,
I'll take the first question with, sorry.
Abhishek, sorry for the interruption. See, we expect the questions today mainly on the testing and the testing facilities and testing related questions rather. And my more or less the exposure is on the prescription side and also on the operations side, the major fires which I witnessed myself and the regulator side. So the need be I'll pitch in, but they are very apt questions coming up. So Abhishek, you kindly go forward, please.
Perfect. So I'll start with the first question, which is the Indian standard 12458. Interestingly, this is a standard which did not come up in my presentation, but it is a standard that we can offer fire testing to. So Aditya Vikram Singh, thank you very much for bringing up this question. The Indian standard IS 12458 is a test method for testing fire stopping. And we are very proud to say that we are among the few laboratories in the whole world who is be accredited to offer testing as per this Indian standard for fire resistance. Your question is that how is this Indian standard getting implemented? So I don't know, Aditya, who you represent, whether you are a manufacturer or a contractor or an installer. But the implementation is in our country is a discussion that can go for about another 3 hours about where and how. But the prime method of implementation is that either someone asks for it, like a contractor or a regulator or a developer, or someone starts to sell their product saying, my product is complying to this. This is an Indian standard and there is nobody else who can offer it. We as enablers of quality, we as enablers of assurance can offer you conformity for your products, for your solutions, for your systems as per this test method. If you have any follow-up question, I'll be happy to answer. I'll take the next question from Manish Khandelwal, someone who I have been in touch with in the past as well. Very interesting question written in capitals. I'll read it out. Passive fire solution, especially fire-rated doors. How to check for fire door system is installed properly. And the same fire-rated hardware is used as in the lab, whether it is as per the Indian standard 3614 or the British standard BS 476 part 20 or 22. And the answer is very simple. I alluded to the answer today in the workshop. Certification and listing is the only tool that gives you all the evidence live, available, inspectable. So if you want to rely on an international standard where you look at Intertek, Thomas Bell Wright, UL, Warrington Fire, or any other larger certification and listing body, make sure that you punch in the certificate number on the directory and see what are the gaps, what is the hardware, what are the measurements, because the listing helps you in inspection. Deshmukh Sahab, please go ahead. Sorry.
I try to little understand. Probably the Manish has in mind, his question is very specific. He is not talking about the product or the product assembly. He is talking about, okay, I have bought a certified product. How do I ensure that it is installed to meet with the desired rating?
So
can little elaborate that on Abhishek, that would be good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will be happy to help. And this goes back to my example, which I had taken earlier about how when the fire and that's where we start, where we make sure that what is, let me share the screen again, is when we talk about the fire and life safety plan, we make sure what we procure. What we are procuring is a 60-minute fire-rated door. And when we get the evidence against the door schedule will define the dimensions, will define how the door should look like. And that door schedule specification or requirement should be compared with the certificate, which is verifiable on the directory. Because it is the verified listing which will explain how the door has been installed. And this listing document, mind you, provides the much needed comparison to close the loop, how it is installed, as well as the specification document needs to ask for warranties and guarantees from the door supplier. Internationally, as well as in many projects in India, the door supplier takes on the responsibility of installation, or at least explaining how the installation is done. I hope that kind of answers the question. I'll take the next question by John Oliver Bitanga. Being on a budget and quality-wise, is it reasonable for us as a consumer to be meticulous about the product we buy? I think it is a trick question for me, but I'm going to answer this and I'll read it out again. Being on a budget and quality-wise, is it reasonable for us as a consumer to be meticulous about the product we buy? And the answer is very simple, John. I'm sure you have family members and all family members. And the question is very simple. Whatever you buy for yourself and your family members to consume, to eat, or wherever you live, it is up to you how you define quality for it and whether you want to be healthy or not healthy, whether you want to be safe for yourself or you want to safe or not safe. This question of safe or unsafe should help you balance quality and budget. in your life? I hope I am able to address the question, because I think it was a trick question to me. Jaivir Singh asks a question about rural area, about community schools. Deshmukh Sahab, would you like to take this question by Jaivir Singh?
Jaivir Singh, huh? See, the question is very proper, and India has a mass population living in the rural part of India as well. Almost 50% plus population lives in rural India. Actually 70, but the definition of urbanization made by our government, that says about 50%. See, the segregation is a simple rule where we can't really afford the passive fire protection. You are talking about rural schools where the population is not that thick, and the schools are constructed out of the local, the construction material available, where the simple segregation would help. And these schools are not really in a flatted or the multi-stored building. Multi-stored, I am not talking high-rise. Even two-stored, three-stored buildings are not there in the rural areas. They are generally on the ground floor or a very low-rise kind of a ground plus one kind of a structures. If you make a proper arrangement for the evacuation, don't use any jazzy kind of a furnishing, I think that will take care of. Here we are talking about where the land use is exploited in a way that in the minimal land use, you want to create more occupiable area, and you want to use all fancy things, and you want to go in the sky, you want to go in a width, you want to have the thick population on the premises like commercial building, business building, residential building. There we have to focus first, and then we'll come back to the stone machinery school. I also have a village background. The stone machinery school constructed in my village, where my father also studied, and I had opportunity to see that school still exists. I think looking at that school, I don't see a fire threat or the propagation of fire possibility there. So let us not touch upon these areas now. Concentrate on the urban and the industrial belts first. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deshmukh ji. And I will just add on a very brief point to the wonderful answer that you have given to Jaivir. And the answer is very simple, is that we as Indians have very good sense and sensibility about where fire safety is needed. And the same is reflected in the building codes worldwide. It starts with the occupancy type. If the occupancy type is in a zone and is in an environment which does not call for so much fire safety measures, then they are not needed. You don't need an extensive setup of a fire pump and sprinklers for a place where it will never really occur. So I think the basic sensibility about what you ask in terms of rural and urban has a very strong link with awareness and population density. I can see a lot of questions. Sorry,
no, Abhishek,
go ahead.
Just again, this question appears to be simple, but there is a lot of complexity sitting behind it. We had a serious fire in Kumbakonam in Tamil. There was a Supreme Court, there is a Supreme Court verdict, there was a litigation going on. And Supreme Court has given a clear verdict that every school in India should be compliant with the provisions prescribed in the National Building Code. And every state government, fire being a state subject, every state government has filed an affidavit to that effect. Maybe that affidavit is, is lying under the debris of the papers of the different secretariats and the mantralayas, and the action on that may be still lacking. But here that has happened. Kumbakonam case particularly, Javid, that is a case where the thatched roof kind of a structure was there. Food was being cooked in the part of the school. The school was totally a different structure. I am not talking about such schools. Such schools should not be encouraged, and the local fire authority should keep a vigil on that. But generally a school with a brick machinery or the stone machinery and having a simple roof on that, big classrooms, and no combustible material greatly used. Such schools, the passive fire protection we are not discussing. But at the same time, even the thatcher roof is so vulnerable that it can kill 92 children, 92 plus. So that is also not recommended. So that has to be a balance between the two, because the principle of the any building code or the standard, that it has to be socially and economically acceptable. So what, education first or the fire safe school first? If that kind of a dicey situation we cannot create. So I think the audience and the person who asked the question, his mind is very clear now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to take a few questions simultaneously, which have been asked again by Aditya Vikram Singh. So Aditya Vikram Singh later explained, has shared that he's representing Hilti India and has tested and certified fire stop systems as per UL and ASTM test methods. And, several questions that Aditya has asked, that how important is documentation in India, and how can industry and fire officers ensuring the implementation of correct fire stopping systems. And I think, Aditya, the questions are all very relevant, and the answers unfortunately will change with the context of the building and the project that we are talking about. And in India, as the previous question was answered, that the context has a lot of spread. Where is it that an American standard like an ASTM or a UL listing should become the basis of assurance? And where is it that the Indian standard, which you asked at the beginning of the session, should come into context? So I will answer the two questions separately. The first is about the test method or the test standard, American standards, Indian standards. And I think a lot of that has got to do with what is the market that we are talking of. As much as we would like to say that the standards aim to open the markets, the standards also end up demarcating and closing the market. So when someone says, I want to have only an Indian standard in India, the aim is to encourage the industrialization in our country, in India, to make sure that a smaller, aspiring manufacturer would not have to pay heavily to buy standards, which may be international standards that require many more steps before someone can prove compliance of the functionality of the product. This said, it is the fire officers or the buyer's knowledge about how conformity and assurance need to be checked, which leads to answer to your question, that how is it that someone can make sure that the product is correctly installed? Because my answer to almost every question goes back to evidence in public. A certification and listing by UL or Intertech, who lists a large number of fire stopping systems, is extremely comprehensive, extremely detailed, and is capable of providing all the evidence needed to do an inspection. So I hope I have been able to answer those questions, Aditya, but if you have more, we can have a one-to-one session. Vinayak is available in Mumbai, and he can reach out to you in the coming days to have a discussion regarding this. I'm going to take one more question by Manish, who talks about 20% increase in the fire rating where the test has been conducted. And what he is referring to is the general decision-making done by several international laboratories, where they conduct a fire resistance test on an assembly like a fire door or a partition, where depending on the test results saying that a assembly or a door achieved 60 minutes or 120 minutes or whatever rating may be, some of them are able to give a judgment or a document to increase the assurance, saying we tested this system, but a slightly larger or a slightly different system will also function. So I must tell you, Manish, and anyone else who uses engineering judgments, to make sure that you understand the limitations of the engineering judgment. And I must point out that in the United Kingdom for the last 5+ years, the investigation after the Grenfell tragedy has been questioning a lot of engineering judgments and the basis of these engineering judgments. So all I'll say is anyone using engineering judgments should do it only carefully. Let me see if I can take some last questions because we're running late as well. Namita Nanda is asked, is it necessary for fire doors to have insulation criteria? This is a very valid question, and I think it all depends on the occupancy type. What is the egress path? What is the egress strategy? If insulation is needed or not needed? What is the type of commodities inside a room where if there is no insulation, it could lead to auto ignition of something inside? Because I see, if I'm not wrong, there was another question or a comment about EI and EW by anonymous attendee. I like anonymous attendees because they don't want to name themselves for some strange reason. So yes, insulation is important, but it depends on the occupancy where it is being used. And I like the last question by Ali Akbar, who says that is Thomas Bell-Wright certificate equivalent to UL certification? And I'll try my best to give you an answer, but there are two separate commercial entities who are offering conformity services which are similar because they are complying to the same ISO 17065, the standard written for certification, but they are different companies. So you could have a Samsung television and a Philips television, both complying to an Indian standard, IS 302, which is mandatory in India, but they are different and they're complying to the same standards. So I can really go on about Thomas Bell-Wright certification, but this is an education session, not a sales pitch session. So I will pause here. So yeah, I think I have been able to address questions.
Abhishek, questions coming from the professionals of this sort, I would like to bring in clarity. What is testing after all? Let us go to the basics of the testing. Testing is not that what I think or you think. Testing is as per the defined standard. It could be the stability test, it could be the integrity test, it could be the insulation test. Whatever the test, the standard specifies what is required. And the test is to see whether the desired output or the standard requirement it meets or otherwise. Now, it is done by, you want a coffee, you have it in the Starbucks or some other coffee joint. As long as you get a coffee, the standard that you have already specified for, then it doesn't matter whether it is UL testing, whether it is FM testing or anybody else testing or Abhishek's organization testing. That is not. You are the experts, you know that what output you need. But one different thing here with the Thomas company, Thomas Wright, that is most of these companies, I've been very open on this, most of these international testing facilities are not affordable to the Indian manufacturers. This is the pulse that I get from the market. And they are not willing to test the products as per the Indian standards. Whereas this company has pitched in, and why the FSIF is holding hands with them, that they are willing to test the products as per our standards, Indian standards. That is the only difference. Otherwise, test is what outcome you want and whether it is meeting to, that is any lab does it, it is bound to be more or less equal. Thank you.
Thank you, Deshmukh Saab. I would just like to add, first of all, thank you for bringing us and talking high of us. And believe me, this is a concept of our company. We believe in this. For the last 15 years, as a laboratory, we have been and we still are the back-end laboratory for UL, for Intertech, for Warrington Fire, all major certification bodies. They use our facility to conduct tests. And we are extremely, I'm very proud to say this, we are extremely experienced in conducting fire tests for a very wide variety of products beyond standards. So we are not only audited by accreditation bodies from United Kingdom and America and American accreditation bodies. We are also audited by UL, by Intertech, by other certification bodies because they use our lab. So we really hold our laboratory to an extremely high standard. And when it comes to creating a business offering, and I will not mince my words, we are here for business like everyone else is. When we want to make sure that we are able to offer to India something that is needed, we have been able to create this offering, saying that it is not that I want to sell a test to a manufacturer who can get a piece of paper to go and sell his product. We want to bring to table assurance, because it is assurance that you're relying on. We are providing an assurance mechanism, and hence we have insisted that please don't rely just on test reports. Understand certification and listing, use it wisely, because there is no point in someone claiming on a marketing brochure that my product does this. And then what are you buying? What is coming in your hand? It is extremely important that as a user in the construction industry, as a decision maker in the construction industry, we take valid decisions based on scientific methodologies which are established. So we are extremely happy, extremely proud that we came up with this offering. And we get this question a lot. Dominic keeps asking me, everybody keeps asking me, where are you? Are you not in India? If you want to do anything in India, you have to be inside India. And we are in India. I have Vinayak who is in the call right now. We are available and accessible. If you want to certify your product to an Indian standard, I can tell you, we can offer that assurance for a price that you can never imagine to get from any of the international bodies ever. It is much, much lower. And it is much lower only because we want those manufacturers who can lead the way in India to take that plunge with us and say that we will lead the way. We will show how assurance can be done as per Indian standards. So doors are open. Commerce is a very touchy subject. There is never a good price. There is never around it. But here we are, available and happy to help. I hope the session was interesting and fun for everybody. There is learning that has happened. And we would be really encouraged to see that in 2023, all the people who have joined in today's session are able to take some good, better technical decisions which lead to fire safety in our country.
Thank you, Abhishek. Wonderful. I now welcome Anurag Deshmukh, who's patiently listening and understanding the whole subject. And I would request her to come in and do the vote of thanks. Over to Anurag.
Thank you, Mr. Dominic. I will take the opportunity to deliver the vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to everyone. It brings me immense pleasure to know that with each session, FireSafe India Foundation grows. And the best part of this growth is that as the foundation grows, the society also benefits. The opening remarks of Mr. Milind Kumar Deshmukh did set the stage for an informative session. I'm thankful for his contribution, not just in terms of knowledge sharing, but also in terms of his time and efforts. He was bold enough to say that the passive fire protection is even more prominent than active fire protection, and I'm sure we all agree with him. Like every other seminar of Fire Safe India Foundation, today's session also focuses on being a fire safe citizen. I thank Mr. Abhishek Chabra for his valuable insights on our topic today. Sir, your journey of 2 years focusing on spreading awareness regarding passive fire protection is incredible. You shed light on the basics of passive fire protection and how containment of fire can be done with the help of glass walls, door walls, non-load bearing ceiling, and vertical elements. The discussion did endeavor to answer questions from the audience and to cover most of your points. Thank you, sir, for taking such an interactive poll session. Thank you, Mr. Aditya Bikram Singh, Manish Khandelwal, John Bitanga, Jairveer Singh, Mr. Raj, Naveen Pal, Sunil Kumar, and Namita Nanda for asking appropriate questions to our subject expert. Today, we have conducted 12th webinar session of Fire Safe India Foundation successfully. So far, we have covered important sessions in our webinar, ranging from hospital fire, high-rise building fire, implementation of fire codes, right to live fire safe, to importance of fire safety in schools and colleges. I promise you that Fire Safe India Foundation will be conducting more of such sessions, webinar on important subjects in the coming year. I want to thank Mr. Dominic and Lakshmi for their support and efforts for coordinating this event. The journey of being just a citizen to a fire-safe citizen will take a time. It will happen only when there's a cultural change in awareness and responsibility towards the society. I thank you all for gracing us with your presence. Stay safe and have a good week ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.